Howdy! This is your friendly neighborhood physics teacher here, and I'm here to help you with graphing your data in your acceleration ramp lab, or graphing your data in any lab. So this will be up for hopefully the rest of the year, so if you need to graph something, you can refer back to this video. So the first thing is dealing with knowing where to put your X and Y axis. So on your first column, it doesn't matter. First column can be whatever first column you write in. So we just tend to write in the A column first. This will be your X axis. And therefore, your B would be your Y axis. So if you remember, your X axis is your independent variable. If we're dealing, in this case, we're dealing with distance or displacement and time. So the independent variable of that one would be your time. And you're going to graph your average time, and that's going to be in seconds. If you're like me and this bothers you going over, if you hover over here and you double click, it'll space it out for you just fine. The reason we put the unit with the title is because if you stick, let's say we have 1 second, 2 seconds, you see how the numbers are going to the right? As soon as you add a letter to it, let's say like S, it goes to the left, and all of a sudden Excel doesn't see it as a number. So to make sure Excel sees it as a number, you put your unit at the top and leave your numbers purely clean. So I am just randomly putting numbers down here. And then your x-axis would be your displacement. And that is measured in meters. And again, if that bothers you, you can come over here, hover, double click. And again, you would make sure your displacement goes from smallest to biggest. Do not write down my data. My data is made up. This is not correct data. I'm literally just writing down numbers right now. So you have your data. You have your x-axis and your y-axis. If you go to make your graph, select your data. Now, we're not going to select the X and Y because that was just me helping you out titling it. So we're going to get the average time displacement and highlight all your numbers. How I did that is I just clicked on average time. I held down the left button and just dragged. From there, we're going to go to insert because we need to insert a graph. So if you click on insert, near the middle, you should have all these kinds of different graphs, but we're going to do recommended graph. And we want to make sure that we are selecting our scatter plot. Scatter plot. My scatter plot has the lines connected. If your scatter plot does not have the lines connected, that is okay. You can just have dots. You're going to go over here and hit OK. And we have a graph, very bare bones graph, but we have a graph. Here, you want to make sure that looking at that your horizontal axis, your x-axis is your time. It is. And you want to make sure that your y-axis is your displacement. You can look at that and pay attention to the numbers. The first thing you want to do is change your title. You want to make sure it's a good descriptive title. Do not put good title. That's what I'm about to put. But you want to be a good descriptive title, kind of explaining what's happening in this graph. So if someone looked at it, they'll be like, oh, that's what that graph is. If you go up here, you can sit here and make it as pretty as you want. It's not required, but you can change there at the top where it says design. Now, at the very tippy top, you see add chart elements. You want to make sure that your chart is selected. You see that with the little dots around it. And you're going to come up here and go add chart element. We need to add titles to our X and Y axis. So you're going to go over here and do horizontal axis, click on that because we want it. And then we actually have to go back into it and go and get our Y axis, our vertical axis. And you just title it. When you title it, make sure you put the units. So it'd be average time, and the unit for that is seconds. And over here would be our displacement. Will be displacement, and it'll be meters. Now, how I changed, changed those. I just double clicked, started typing. This one, you can move your left and right arrows. When you do your up and down, you will need to use your up and down arrows to get where you need to go on the one that's going sideways. So now we have everything described. Let's get a little bit more help with technology. So again, we're going to make sure our graph is highlighted. We're going to scroll up here, and we're going to go down to trend line. And we're going to go to more options because, we always want more options. You want to make sure that your linear is selected. It is. And if you scroll down second to the bottom, you see display equation on chart. You see it's like this little green box is highlighted. If you click on that, you see a equation now. You want to make sure that's really small. We want to make sure that we can read it. So we're going to highlight it, go back to home, and you can either just sit here and do the up or select how big you want it. And you can also click and drag. No, we don't want the grid. You can also click and drag it so we can see it. So there we go. That's everything you need on your graph. Now let's talk about kind of what is happening here. The Y. The Y is literally your x-axis. So, your Y is literally your y-axis. So that is your displacement. This right here is your slope. That is your slope. Now, what is the slope of a displacement time graph? Hopefully you said velocity. So that is your slope. That is telling you your velocity. The next thing, we have x. So x is just your x-axis. So we have your displacement equals your slope with its velocity, and then times your average time. Look, that is your equation. That is your equation for your displacement. This little number over here, that number right there is telling you how much error you have in your data. In theory, it should be 0, but that's just confirming, yes, I have error. So make sure in your conclusion, you describe what errors you have, because, what type of errors you have. Be specific. What could you change about them and stuff like that. So this is kind of helping you out, answering a question on your lab. Once you're done with that, then you go and do your velocity graph, and you step it through just the same way. The only difference is it would be your y equation. So let's think about it for a velocity time graph. So y equals mx plus b. For a velocity time graph, your y would be your change in velocity. Your slope of a velocity time graph is your acceleration, and your x is still your time. And remember, that is just error. So that hopefully helps how to make a graph. You just repeat doing your average time as your x-axis and your displacement and your velocity as your y-axis to do your other graphs. So this lab needs 2 graphs. Hopefully that helps. Have an awesome day. Bye.